Well, guys, since we had a thunderstorm risk for tomorrow and tonight, I think that there was some uneasiness in terms of whether we're going to see any severe. And yesterday I mentioned that strong storms would be possible on Wednesday. In fact, I said yesterday that if it was me, I would have placed a slight risk out for Wednesday. 24 hours later, looking at the data, there definitely is a little bit of a shift in the data. But I still thought, you know what, let's do a Facebook Live. This makes a lot of sense to do one of these. So remember, always live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube and we're live on X as well tonight. So if you have any of those platforms, you can watch us there. One thing I'll also ask, and this is always something if you guys have been with me doing my Facebook Lives for a long time, and we've been doing these for a while, always share the video. So right now we have 210 people in here. Let's say you share the video and you've got 10 followers. Now 200 goes into 2,000 people that might be interested in the strong thunderstorm potential tonight or tomorrow. Now, let's say you've got 100 people following you. Now, 20,000 people are going to be alerted. Hey, Mark's doing a video about thunderstorms tonight. You may or may not care. Jump on in if you're curious. So what that does for me is it helps me do my job and reach more people. And that is, in the end, the goal of the Facebook Live. So what we're going to talk about here tonight, and if you guys have watched these, the Facebook Lives, the lives are a little bit different than what I do on TV. So on TV, I obviously give a 3-4 minute compact segment. And in that, you kind of get the bread and butter of the forecast. We can't really get down into the fine details. Now, in a live like this, where I have basically unlimited time, it allows me to do a lot more of these and get into more detail. And so that's something that is really important about these. Another thing I'll show you here is it allows me also to interact with you. And I'm going to put some of the questions here on the side so I can read this in real time while we're doing this, and I can show your comments live on the air as you see here. So what then this allows me to do is be more personal and get into some specific details that you may be interested for your town. Second, on TV, I cover a DMA, and our viewing area is still confined to Litchfield, westward, or excuse me, northward through around Bedford, Indiana. Then it goes through Seymour, through around North Vernon, south through around Madison, Carrollton, and then southward through Springfield, Kentucky, into Columbia. Here, I don't have a DMA. I can cover weather anywhere, and you can ask questions for anywhere, and I can answer those for you live during the broadcast. So that's one of the cool things about these Facebook Lives. So I know some people are a little uneasy. I know some pets probably woke up last night with the thunder and lightning. For me, it's weird. People ask me if thunder and lightning wakes me up at night, and I'm always answering the same. If there's thunder and lightning, normally I'm not sleeping anyways. So, all right, let's jump into this again. I'm going to ask you one more time. If you guys enjoy the Facebook Lives, thumbs up and throw some hearts across the screen. And please share the video. We're now up to 460 people in here. If you have 100 people that follow you and you share this, that would mean 45,000 people will be alerted. Hey, if you're interested in active weather tonight and tomorrow, Mark's discussing this. Jump in and let's get into this. So let's start with what we've always started with. We've done Facebook Lives now, I'm going to guess, for probably 7-8 years. We've now added the YouTube Lives into the mix and the X Lives, which those are a little bit younger. Our Facebook Lives have been going for a long time. And we built up a weather community here now on my page that has about 329,000 people. And that to me is something I find pretty cool. That a weather geek that just likes to talk about weather has 329,000 people that trust me and follow me. So let's do this. So when we discuss severe weather potential, there's a lot of commonalities in things that we discuss. And what I'm going to tell you here is if you're baking, I think you know that the ingredient list is really important. Let's just say you put everything in, but you know what? Everything's perfect. I did it exactly right, but I forgot to put sugar in. My question to you is it going to be as good? Maybe, maybe not. I would say probably not. And the severe weather ingredients, it's very similar. You can have 2 of these in abundance, but if you don't have all 3, you don't fire the engine on all cylinders and you don't get a big severe weather scenario. So these things are really, really important. So let's start off with fuel. So instability. Instability is generated by warmth and high dew points. Let's use an analogy here because I think it helps a lot. So instability is going to be fuel, just like the fuel you put in your car. So we need to have fuel. Makes sense to get storms going. From here, we need to have wind energy. So wind energy, we're going to liken this to the engine. So we're a Ford City. The Ford GT500, supercharged, that thing rolls. Big, powerful motor, wind energy. But what happens if you put water in the gas tank? You're like, Mark, it doesn't matter that there's a powerful engine. If you put water in the gas tank, buddy, it's going nowhere. Well, Mother Nature got the message. If you put poor fuel, meaning cool temperatures, low dew points, even if you match it with a lot of wind energy, it doesn't generate organized severe. And this is a big deal. So we need to have the fuel to put in the gas tank of the powerful engine. And last one, I mean, this one makes sense. To get severe weather, to get severe thunderstorms, you need thunderstorms. So we need something to fire those storms. So this ingredient list is something I show you regularly. And we're going to go through this systematically in this Facebook Live and discuss severe weather potential. So on TV, I will be clear, I will not show this level of severe risk. The reason I won't show this level of severe risk is because it busts out so frequently. We've been concerned on TV that if we show what's called the marginal risk, that people will stop paying attention to severe weather. And I really mean this seriously. They're going to be like, Mark, you said I was under a marginal risk yesterday. I'm under a marginal risk tomorrow. I'm under a marginal risk a couple days from now. And I'm again under I'm not going to pay attention, but you keep telling me I'm under a marginal risk and nothing happens at my house. And I would say, you're right. So we don't show it on TV. Why show it in the live? In the live, I have the ability to go into a lot more detail. And so in a live, this makes sense to show you at least where the Storms Prediction Center is highlighting an area. And to be clear, this came up last night. A lot of you heard me yesterday say that we did not belong under an organized severe weather threat. Somebody emailed me and said that I had damage at my house, Mark, and you said that there was no severe weather threat. Let me be clear. An organized severe weather threat means numerous. Rogue severe happens every time we get thunderstorms. When we have full foliage on our trees, every time there's thunderstorms, it'll knock down a tree somewhere. And there is no exception every single time. And so we can't issue warnings on every single one of those. Or what happens is you're going to get frivolous warnings all the time where one tree falls down. So if a tree falls at my house and nobody else in Louisville has a tree fall, I mean, I'm going to be sitting in my house saying, Mark, you nailed that. You nailed that severe thunderstorm. Whereas literally everybody else is going to be like, Mark, what are you talking about, dude? There was no trees down. So I'll be clear. You can get localized severe in almost every summer and fall and spring scenario. When we talk about organized severe weather, we're talking about numerous warnings. We're talking about thunderstorms that can last for a while. And there is science. Science goes into dictating what can generate organized severe. It's not my opinion. I was a researcher with the Doppler on Wheels for many years. There was a meteorologist, I've told this story, his name was David. He was the forecast for our group on the 2 years that I worked with the Doppler on Wheels on Rotate 98 and Rotate 99. We were chasing hurricanes and specifically tornadoes a lot. So David was our forecaster, and he was the one, when I was a senior in college and a first-year grad student, David was the one that chose the chase targets. And I learned a lot from watching David forecast. And one of the things that I learned is that you cannot generate organized severe weather without about 35 knots or 40 miles an hour of wind energy from the surface up to 6 kilometers, somewhere in there. And that was a non-negotiable. And it has paid every single time I used that for 25 years in this career. And this is not the opinion of me. This is the opinion of science. So without having that wind energy, and again, it has to be from the surface to about where planes fly, about 6 kilometers above the ground, mid-levels of the atmosphere. It has to be about 35 knots or 40 miles an hour or stronger. Or what's going to happen is the storms will pulse up. The rain will form on top of the updraft. Now understand that updraft's the lifeline. So now that updraft is trying to hold that rain. There's more and more and more. It's getting heavier and heavier, and finally it collapses. That's not a long-lived, sustained updraft. that can generate organized severe. So I just wanted to explain that because I think it's an interesting topic here. So let's take a look at what we have right now, because I know some are wondering, you know what, Mark, you're talking about the future. What's out there now? Millerstown, you've got a thunderstorm right now. You can see a little lightning just to the west, not a lot. But that's really kind of one of the few thunderstorms we have in our area. We've got rain right now, and these are downpours that are increasing near Tell City. And then these extend northward through around the Paoli area. I'm going to put this into motion for you, and you can see this is making its march off towards the east. So as you look at this, and you can see there's an initial wave. If you're wondering, is that doesn't look that strong. And in fact, I'm going to draw your attention to one storm here in particular. So what you can see is this storm split and tried to move southward. See it right there? And it collapsed off. So something's causing these to collapse off. And this is going to be part of how we discuss that severe weather potential overnight. Second, you can see a very significant line of thunderstorms that is generated, and that's producing some level of severe that goes through Oklahoma into Arkansas, north of Memphis. But this is important to note. Many times when severe weather sets up a wall to the south, it can disrupt the moisture transport to the north, and it can affect our ability to generate severe weather. So let's look outside right now. Louisville, you're 79 degrees, quiet. Dew point 68. Let's come back around to that equation, though. Fuel is generated by high dew points and warmth. 79's, I mean, it's kind of warm. That's not super warm. Okay, so we shouldn't have out of control instability tonight, should we? No. And you can see, we'll take a look at a couple of areas. I love our camera network, and this is going to be so valuable when I do these lives during severe weather, because I'm going to get to show you. In fact, I'll show you something we worked on. I'm going to be able to show you multiple cameras at the same time, and you can see in the top right part of your screen, I've got live radar with rotation, and then I can appear in the corner of the screen while I've got another graphic here on the left. And I can show you this nonstop during the whole video, or just in the Q&A portion, or however we want. So this really is going to give us a lot of ability to show you, say that again, show you what's going on in your town. And I think that's going to be really valuable during these lives. So Corydon sitting at 75, dew point 71, high dew point. And that's our theme here. It's not ultra warm tonight, but we do have the dew points that are up there. This supports heavy rain, so let's not forget that. Regardless of whether our main topic is severe weather potential, high dew points also support heavy rain, and that is going to be the case potentially for the next 24, 36 hours. Is everybody going to get the same amount of rain? I think you know the answer to that. It never works that way in this area. So as we look around our area, there's quite a bit of consistency, and so I want to make the point. If the storms are not severe right now, the wind energy is not going to increase tonight. The fuel is only going to go down because our temperatures are going to cool. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us to have a large-scale severe weather scenario tonight, right? I mean, if it's not doing it now, what's going to change that? And it's a really fair question. So we know that tonight, and again, I want to go back to what I said earlier, if we generate it as severe tonight, it'd be rogue. I can never rule out a localized damaging wind producer. It's the nature of the beast with thunderstorms. But what we're speaking to is more of that wide-scale organized threat. So around our region, we can see where the storms are strongest. Remember, they're more intense near Little Rock, and they're more intense near Memphis, and they're more intense north of Dallas. Why? It's 83 in Little Rock. It's 93 in Dallas. It's much warmer. What that means is the fuel is way up here. So that's a big part of this one, is that's where the storms are the strongest, which then is going to bring us full circle. In our area, I mean, we know, you could see it. We have high dew points here. So we've got the same high dew points that are in Dallas. Little Rock argues is a little bit higher, but these storms are generating severe with these dew points. So we know these are adequate, and it really then brings up the question. If we're going to get storms tonight into tomorrow morning, can the air mass recover? Can we get sunshine? Can we heat things up? Can we generate that big time fuel? And that becomes a very important point in this Facebook Live and this live video that we're doing for you on YouTube as well. So as we look around our area, we can see a tornado watch that has been in effect for Arkansas and Oklahoma. You know, this one really got pushed hard on social media. In reality, I think that most will feel that tornado potential has fallen short on this one. But there is also a severe thunderstorm watch in the southern part of Oklahoma into North Texas. So the low pressure, if we're going to start to then bring fuel in, and we're going to need to talk about wind energy, we need to talk then about how we would get wind energy. Now, remember in the beginning of this video, I said that you needed 35 knots or 40 miles an hour of wind energy, somewhere between the surface and about 6 kilometers above the ground to generate organized severe. So where can we get that wind energy from? Well, that wind energy is going to come from that storm you see over western Kansas. So that low is going to be the one that we're going to be watching to see if that can generate wind energy. And what I'm going to tell you is it can. Now, it can generate enough wind energy for organized severe, and there's no question in my mind about that. What's going to be the big question is, can I overlap some fuel with wind energy when there's forcing? Because if I can put those parameters in the same space at the same time, I can generate strong storms. And we refer to this as the spatial parameters. Are we going to be able to overlap the spatial parameters? And I'm going to show you because I find this super interesting. So we are going to see some showers and thunderstorms tonight. There's going to be quite a bit, actually. And you will see that what that does is that nukes the fuel. So you're looking at data right now, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for you. So in the data here, what we're going to do is we're going to show you what we call fuel. And the value here is called CAPE. CAPE means convective, available, potential, energy. What? Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of what potential energy is. Let me see if I have anything around here that I can drop without breaking something. I don't think I have anything around here that I can drop without break. I do. Let me step back here for a moment. I'm not leaving. Got a football. So I'm going to show you what potential energy is, and I'm going to show you what real kinetic energy is. What does this mean? So we're going to do a little science experiment. This is potential energy. Why? Because the ball is lifted up above the ground, and if I was to let it go, it will then accelerate downwards. So this has potential to turn into real energy. Kinetic is real energy. If I put this ball right here on the desk, there is no now potential energy because it's not moving, it can't drop. So potential energy turns into real energy. And so that you can see how that works. That's just science. So when we look at thunderstorm action, how does this then equate? So we have potential energy, which the thunderstorm turns into vertical motion. That vertical motion then allows the thunderstorm to intensify, generate lightning, hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes. So the potential energy is turned into kinetic or real energy as the thunderstorm is the mechanism to transfer that. It's a concept that's somewhat cool when you kind of think about it, but that's how it works. So let's look at what kind of energy we have. Number one, it's low tomorrow morning. What kind of units can generate severe weather in our area? So potential energy over about 700 units can generate severe. We get about up to maybe 4,000 sometimes in our really extreme events. 1,000, when you see 1,000, you know that you've got enough. So what we're going to be looking for is where that generates tomorrow. Now, there's going to be thunderstorms overnight. And what's going to happen is, can anybody clear and generate some fuel for tomorrow? So what we see here in the data is that in southern Indiana, you have more cloud cover, more shower action. Therefore, it's harder for you to clear. And you'll see when I show you the frontal map, it makes sense because we have a warm front in the area. And you can see when you look at areas in particular near the river and south, and if you're getting more specific in this particular computer model run, you can see that those numbers are indeed higher along and south of the Western and Bluegrass Parkway. So who would be included? Litchfield, Munfordville, E-Town, Hodgenville, Greensburg, Columbia, Springfield, and even towards around the E-Town area. You simply have more fuel tomorrow than anybody else. And I think this is important to note. And then beyond you having more fuel, it maximizes in peak heating. So when? That would be late afternoon and evening. That would be in the 3 to 7 o'clock time frame. So the one thing you'll also note, by the way, is there is some level of instability that continues tomorrow night. It's not robust, it's not out of control, but it's also not zero. So these are things that are important to note here. So as we look then at the fuel, let's go back over that. 0 at 10 a.m. for most. That starts to come up during mid-afternoon through late evening. And so if we're and it comes up in particular south of the river, but if you want to get really specific, it's showing more so near and south of the western and bluegrass. And it does meet our needs, our criteria for organized severe weather. So from here, let's look at wind energy. And I told you that the wind energy is sufficient for severe. Now you're like, Mark, but you're showing me that the wind energy is about 40 miles an hour. You said that's adequate to support severe, but you're showing me that is occurring at 9 a.m. I mean, that clearly shows, Mark, 9 a.m. You just showed me that there's no fuel at 9 a.m. Well, yeah, that's actually a true statement. So this is why this is an interesting one. The fuel comes up in the late afternoon and evening. The wind energy is peaking tomorrow morning through 3 p.m. That's interesting. So the fuel comes up after the wind energy? Didn't you just say these parameters have to overlap to generate organized severe? Bingo. They don't. They don't overlap. So what that means is the spatial environment is not hitting tomorrow. It's not linking. It's not matching. Now, the question then becomes, is 25 mile an hour winds a mile above the ground, because that's what we're looking at, enough to generate severe at 5? And those are easing back by 9 p.m. tomorrow. And overnight, while there is a little fuel, the wind energy continues to weaken. The answer is no. Is it enough to generate some severe? I said it earlier. You can get some severe in virtually every scenario. But is this enough to generate organized severe? Based on the late data, we are seeing that it may be a little low. Now, that said, we do see the fuel is looking a little bit better, specifically for our southern counties. Again, let me say that one more time. The fuel is a little bit better along and south of the western and bluegrass parkways, and there is more wind energy when these are trying to overlap. They just are not in Louisville and southern Indiana. So if you were to upgrade to a slight, one would have to bias towards our southern counties. Now, I'm going to be getting new data in here. What time are we at right now? 8:54, in about the next 30 minutes. So I'll be able to analyze and obviously update you at 10 o'clock. So from here, let's go through the data. I know some people are curious. I know your pet is sitting there watching this Facebook Live intently. Curious, is Mark going to say it's going to thunder and lightning tonight? I don't want to wake up, freak everybody else out. I get anxiety. You know, pets just get anxiety when there's thunderstorms. All right, they're probably not saying that, but it is kind of true, right? So you can see the data shows scattered thunderstorms overnight. In particular, it really shows more of those after 4 a.m. And it is worth noting that some of the model runs have shown this around during the morning drive. That said, the severe cluster has now formed over Oklahoma and Arkansas. And what's going to happen now in the new data that rolls in is I'm going to get a better assessment of data that's more reliable. But it doesn't stop us from doing a live, because we can still get the concepts. So rain and thunderstorms tonight with temperatures in the 70s and 60s mean we're not going to see organized severe tonight. Again, I will tell you what I told you last night. I can't rule out a stray strong. It would be very localized if that were to occur. What you're going to notice then is around 10 a.m., remember, that's when our wind energy starts to pick up. Wind energy is picking up. It is 10 a.m. here on Advanced Track. Let's watch, because we know those thunderstorms are going to tap into that wind energy, and that's when we have to be concerned. That's weird. It kind of shows nothing. Of course, it shows nothing because there's no fuel at that time. So that's when the atmosphere is trying to recharge, ironically, when the wind energy is maximized. And I'm not saying this in a bad way, because I can tell you, I think people think because I've storm chased for a long time that I want to see severe. I can tell you what happened to me is in 1999, I was chasing a tornado. It was May 3rd, 1999. It's a day I won't ever forget, and a lot of people won't. I started chasing a tornado in Cyril, Oklahoma. I went on to, I think, see 13 touchdowns that day. I saw what is one of the most powerful tornadoes ever recorded. Many people believe it is the most powerful tornado ever. We measured with Doppler on wheels that day, 318-mile-an-hour winds, which has never been eclipsed. And I watched EF5 go into Oklahoma City and kill 44 people. So after that day, I was a kid out there storm chasing. I was like a bunch of people that storm chase even now. And I drove after the storms as somebody that was excited to see thunderstorms. I thought they were the most incredible, beautiful things ever. I remember even the excitement in the video when I posted it, or when I watched it over after it happened. And I remember hearing the excitement up until about 20 miles before it went into Oklahoma City, and I realized what was going to happen. And I knew people were going to die that day. And I was watching a killer go into somebody's town and kill them. They were innocent. They didn't do anything. And that was the day where storms no longer became a beautiful thing and storms became killers to me. It's the day that I chose to go into the business I'm in now. And so, I think people have this idea, well, I enjoy storms. I came to the understanding with myself that this is what my skill set is. This is what I do best. I was born to be a radar analyst, and that's what I have dedicated the last 30 years of my life to doing. I studied and researched tornadoes, and I did what was called de-aliasing. I analyzed radar data for research purposes. I did it every day for years. And then I went on and I decided that I wanted to use that skill set to maybe help some people. So I started in TV in 1999, and that's why I've been doing what I've been doing ever since. Landed here 21 years ago, and I've been here since. That's just a little background to what I am and who I am and why I do this. But I don't want to see these parameters overlap ever again. I don't want to March 2nd to happen of 2012 when Henryville and Pekin and Borden and Marysville. I don't want to ever see that happen again. I don't want to see what happened in December of 2021, when Mayfield and Dawson Springs were obliterated by a high-end EF4. If I never see that again, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. But I've come to the realization that in that time that I'm going to use the skill set that I was given to help. So what we note is tomorrow the overlap is not there. And this is a big deal. So it means that when we start to get the fuels to generate, the thunderstorms to generate during the evening, we don't have a ton of wind energy, but one might be able to successfully argue that if you're near and south of the western and bluegrass, you have more potential for thunderstorms and you have more potential for severe because the wind energy is a little better. And you can see those storms erupting, evolving around 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock tomorrow. You could see that in southern Indiana, it's just way cooler. But none of our area gets super warm tomorrow. None of our area gets super warm. We can see those storms continue to evolve as we move into the afternoon and evening. And what we know here is that there's going to be some level of fuel. It's not here. It's not even here. It's a little bit above the floor of what we would look for organized severe. The wind energy is not crazy tomorrow. So we'll come back to it. But what you're hearing me correctly is you're hearing me say that there's some missing components. And you can see the thunderstorms do generate tomorrow and tomorrow night. And you can see those move across our area. And you can see by 7 a.m. on Thursday, they're gone. So I'm going to make this full, and I'm going to go back through it one more time. And the reason I'm going to do that is I just want you to be able to pick out your town. And the time, remember, is always on the top right part of that screen. So you can see there's an initial wave coming across our area between 4 and 9 a.m. And you can pick out your town, so hopefully that helps you get an idea of what this means for you. You can see that clears out by 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. You can see we then go into a very distinct pause during much of this day. And then you can see this is 5 p.m. tomorrow. We then watch for thunderstorms to develop tomorrow evening. I would say a couple of rogues, strong to severe, can occur in here. You can see this starts to flash a little bit more around 9 or 10. You can see if you're in Paoli or Seymour or North Vernon or Bedford, there's may not be that reflare. You can see if you're near the river, it's possible. You can see if you're near E-Town and Campbellsville, this is pretty likely that there'll be some type of a reflare. And then you can see that moving across our area as we go through Wednesday night into Thursday morning. So from here, let's go and look back at the data. So the Storms Prediction Center for tomorrow, for their severe weather probabilities, they have a 5% chance of damaging winds tomorrow. 5%. That means there's a 95% chance you don't get severe. Let me say that again. That's a 95% chance you don't see severe tomorrow. Would I make adjustments to this? So I'm going to tell you what I think. I think that I'd like to see a little more data. But if you're going to put me on the spot right now and say where I would have to put a slight, if I was to put one, I would enter it in our counties near around Springfield, Kentucky. I would move it through around the E-Town area, and I would drop it south and put this area in the slight if I was to do that. I'd like to look at the later data because right now I don't know that that is going to be justified based on what I see. But I just want to tell you where I think that the best probability for organized severe would be. And anytime we do a video, I think people want to know, is there a tornado threat? So I want you to know that the Storms Prediction Center doesn't issue tornado threats when it's under 2%. Understand what I'm saying one more time. They don't issue the threat if it's under 2%. Under 2% doesn't mean zero. It just means it's not 2%. So I think sometimes people would look at this map and say there's no tornado threat. No, that's not what SPC is saying. What they're saying is that the tornado threat is less than 2%. And I think that's important to note here. So let's then go back and put this back together. We generate some fuel. Let's start with wind energy. We generate some wind energy tomorrow morning starting around 9 a.m. that lasts through 3 p.m. We know that that wind energy is more than supportive of severe. It is not robust, but it definitely does meet the threshold we need for organized severe. We know that that wind starts to tail back around 3 and maybe hovers in our southeast counties a little bit longer. We know the fuel starts to build after 3. We know the fuel maximizes between around 4 and 7. We know then that the fuel and the wind energy are not in the same area at the same time. So when the storms then generate, they've got some fuel to work with, but the wind energy is long gone. And what this means is if you're to analyze this, it means that you can generate rogue severe. It means right now, based on the data we have, I would not issue the slight. Now, some might say, Mark, yesterday you said that you would have put a slight out. You are correct. I would have based on the data yesterday. And the data has backed off some on that. So I think that it is important to note that. And the Storms Prediction Center, in full transparency, they have not gone above marginal for Wednesday yet. And in transparency, their forecast is held based on the data. So I think it's always important to note. I don't say Storms Prediction Center does a good job, bad job, whatever. I just give my analysis. So from here, number one, if you guys appreciate the lives, always some thumbs up. I'm watching on my phone here to see your guys' thumbs up and hearts fly across the screen. Share the video with your friends and family, and I promised you I would open it up to questions. So what'll happen here is when you ask a question, I can see it off to the side of the screen. I'm going to move myself a little bit so I have a good view, and I'll be able to read and answer your questions. If I don't get to your question, don't feel bad about asking it twice. I can see, I think, 4 questions on screen at the same time, so I can't see every single question. If I miss it, ask it a second time, and I'll try to get back to you so I can answer it. So let's open this up. Somebody, Sharon, is asking about LaRue County tomorrow. Would I put you in the slight? I would, based on current. Is the late data going to adjust a little? Absolutely. There's severe weather to the west. But I would say that your chance is probably better in LaRue County than it would be, let's say, in Jackson County, Indiana. So it's a fair question, and I'll try my best to answer all of these. Kalista from Facebook, she's asking, so is it safe to sleep tonight? Otherwise, I'll be awake all night. So first, Kalista, thank you for the question. Second, I think if you're to see severe tonight, it's a low probability. It's not a very good chance. It's quite low. I can't tell you it's 0. But if you're asking me, would I have a problem going to sleep tonight? My answer is I would not. How windy will it be tomorrow? From Sandra. That's a question coming in from our Facebook viewer. And by the way, where you ask the question, I'll be able to know, so I'll give you guys a shout out. Sandra's asking how windy. So tomorrow morning does have potential for some 25s. Because remember, the wind about a mile above the ground picks up a lot in that time frame. So it'll be breezy early on in the day, but that should tail as we go into the afternoon back a little bit, other than underneath thunderstorms. Erica's asking out of the Sellersburg area. So Sellersburg, I would not place you based on this current data under a slight risk. I would not. I just don't think that you're going to be able to have the wind energy long enough for fuel to build back, even if it will. Is tonight going to be okay to go to bed? From Oliver. Oliver, I don't think the tornado threat is very high. It's in fact quite low tonight. Can I say there's no severe threat? I can't say it's none, but it's low. Let's see. Jess from Mitchell asking, Jess, I don't think you would need to be in the slight. I think that your wind energy is just too low. And I think that if you were to see severe, it would just be very, very isolated and it's not highly likely. PRP. So this will go for all Louisville. Would I place Louisville as it stands right now in a slight risk? My answer is no. I'd like to look at the late data. I think that if there is a need for an upgrade, that area could be as far north as the Ohio River and as far south as maybe around the parkways, but I'm not convinced that that is going to be necessary. What about Barron County? So Greg out of Barron County, do I think you could see severe? Greg, you're going to get the wave of rain and thunderstorms early. The problem for you is that the reflare of thunderstorms may simply be too far north for you to get a lot. It may not be a large area that has that organized severe potential if indeed it materializes. So I think that I can't rule out some strong for you as well. Some strong to severe are certainly possible in your part of Kentucky, but right now to me, I'd like to look at a little bit more to say whether it would need to go to slight. Either way, it does not look like an outbreak. Nothing shows that. What about Oldham County in the afternoon? So in the afternoon tomorrow, we'll watch for a reflare. Afternoon is more than likely to have some scattered thunderstorms that should fill in some level during the evening and overnight hours. By the way, some have asked about the St. X and Trinity are playing the 3 soccer games tomorrow evening. In transparency, I do advise for Trinity, and so I will be giving guidance. And so as we stand right now, we're going to reassess tomorrow because there's not a guarantee that reflare of thunderstorms would be as far north as Louisville. It may indeed end up further south. And so my advice, and I work with Sean over there, is that let's wait to get more data in tomorrow. And then what we did is we basically have a window that we can move to if necessary. Again, you guys may or may not know, I help a lot of athletics in our area. I help the University of Louisville. I help some of our high school level, and anybody that reached out to me generally knows I'll always help. Most of these school administrators and ADs, I'll give my personal number to so that I can help. I help with Loose City. I give the forecast for them, give the forecast for the Bats. I've done multiple NCAA level events, track and field championships several years ago. So it is cool. If you were to ask me at 18 years old if I would be the meteorologist for an NCAA level championship event one day, I would have done my evil laugh. But alas, that's the way it worked out. I was the meteorologist for the Super Regionals for U of L to go to the College World Series. That's cool. More questions here. Mockport, Indiana. So I think that organized severe, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Right now, based on what I see, I'd put it a little further to your south. Let's see. Sticks joining us from Pine, Oklahoma, or Pine Knot, Kentucky. Thank you for joining. Margot is saying, are we going to have a lot of wind in the Portland area tonight? You could have some wind, but I don't think a lot is the word I would use. Elizabeth is asking if we're expecting any heavy rain tonight. If so, what time frame? So the data's backed off a little bit on the heavy rain potential tonight. I do think that there's still solid rain potential. All the data has underproduced in terms of storms. And if we underproduce a little bit tonight, then we should get more storms during the day tomorrow. So I would say if you're worried about tonight, then after 3 or 4 a.m. is when I would become more aware of that heavy rain potential for tonight. Let's see here. Palmyra, Indiana from Kenny. Kenny, I don't think I'd put you in the organized severe for tomorrow. I can't rule out a damaging wind gust. I don't think it's going to be the norm. Do I think that there could be damage to homes from Charlie? I don't think it's impossible. If you're asking me if it's a high-level scenario, my answer is absolutely not. Somebody asked if there is any potential here for power outages. It's not a high potential. I would tell you if it was. I can tell you that I can't rule it out. Our trees are in full foliage. And even if you get 50-mile-an-hour winds in a scenario like this, you can still get damaging. You can still get some damage. So it is important to note that it's not out of the realm of possibility to get some power outages, but they would be isolated. We're not going to get a ton. I don't think that's the way this one unfolds. Angie on Facebook is asking about Bardstown, Kentucky. So Angie out of Bardstown, you're an area that I think is one of the few that could get upgraded into a slight. Not an enhanced, not a moderate, not a high. A slight, which would still at best mean scattered, strong to severe. I don't think anybody in our area is going to see an event. I don't think that's in the cards. But you're in an area where I think we could see some severe tomorrow. Bullitt County, Karen's asking, would I put Bullitt County in the slight right now? I would not. Like to get a look at that late data, which I will here in a few minutes, and analyze and update you. But we'll take a look at that, and I'll update you guys on that at 10. What time for Louisville tomorrow? So scattered thunderstorms will be kind of on and off. The data suggests some late tonight through early tomorrow. If tonight ends up being a little bit lower, then there would be more scattered stuff tomorrow. But if you're asking when we would watch, if we were to see severe, I would say after 4 p.m. Scotty joining me on Facebook from Tell City. Appreciate you in here, Scotty. Angie is saying thank you so much. Of course, I appreciate you guys in here. I'm going to do 3 more questions. Again, if you guys, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're watching this on my X, let me know. Do you appreciate these lives? How? See the thumbs up? Throw some hearts across the screen and share the video. So you know the video rolls even after it ends. So if you got friends, they're like, I missed the live. I missed it. Well, it'll be posted on my page, and when you share it, they can watch it after the fact. So these are valuable to share even at the end of the video, because a lot of people get an opportunity to see. And you can always comment down below. Let me know that you guys appreciate the videos. This is our new little home here. I showed you guys a little bit of this. Let me just show you when we have 2 people. We would have obviously the second over here. And this was kind of, Rick DeLuca and I were talking about it the other night. It was one of my dreams of 2025 was to create a streaming home. What we're seeing now are people that are creating videos on Facebook, on YouTube. They're doing them from their basement. These are people that many times aren't even meteorologists. And it is, I felt that I wanted to bring the professionalism that I bring you in TV into the streaming space. I wanted to get the higher level quality where we have broadcast level equipment, where we have access to multiple webcams in our area, and where we have access to multiple radar sources, and then obviously the expertise and trust that you guys have learned from us. And you guys know we're obviously real meteorologists. We're not using the term WX at the end of our name and then going and doing lives or stuff like that. It's frustrating for me. It's frustrating because, like, you know, if I had family that was sick, I wouldn't want my family to go to somebody that learned medicine on YouTube, or they watched, I mean, look, they have been on Google researching medicine their whole life. I mean, surely they can operate on my family. They're on social media all the time studying this stuff. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Well, when your life is threatened with severe weather or tornado, I mean, is that what you want? So we felt that it was important to get the professionalism in here. And it's a big part of what we want to do with this. So let me do 3 more questions here. You can tell my voice is getting a little raspy. One I found in this business is you can only talk for so long. Let's see, Margaret saying, thank you, appreciate that. Okay, here's question number 1. Tiffany is saying, any severe weather tonight, any potential for severe weather night here in the Louisville area. So let me show you our graphics. And what you can see here is the Storms Prediction Center. They have a 5% chance for tomorrow of severe. If you are indeed in the Portland area, that chance is really for tomorrow. Our chance of severe overnight tonight is quite low. So we've got a couple of more questions here. Let me give you a chance to ask those questions.
Hey.
What? He's been here the whole time. What are you guys talking about?
I was just silent.
He didn't say anything.
I was just paying attention to the thorough video here.
Why are people acting weird? I mean, he's literally been here the entire time. Right? All right, Rick DeLuca is joining us. So the beauty of having the gear that we have here is obviously we can punch cameras. Rick can come in and out. And this is something, Rick, you'll probably see a lot when I'm on air. Let's say if there's a severe thunderstorm and I'm on air on WDRB News at 4, right. You're probably going to be here in the streaming studio.
Sure.
When I'm on TV, I won't be able to come in here, but I may peek in for 3, 4, 5 minutes so just we can talk about the storms and lend some of my thoughts into things. And this is the beauty of having a professional studio to do this stuff.
Right. I mean, we have a staff of 5 meteorologists, which means if you're on air, there's other people doing other things, and that way we can be streaming live. And Mark, like you said, will poke his head in for a little bit just to give us 2 cents, see what's going on. And you know how the news works. I mean, you have blocks. You get a minute and a half to do certain weather. Sometimes you get 3 or
Right.
4 minutes, and sometimes it's really tough to condense
That's the
or
hardest thing.
distill that weather story.
When
You
you
know?
have a severe thunderstorm warning, you're like he's saying to the producer, "Hey, can I get 30 extra
That's it, yeah.
seconds?" But when you really think about it, is 30 extra seconds enough time sometimes to really talk about severe? Look, for the person that wants the quick information, yes. But for the person that may want a little more, this can give it that.
Right. This is just it's a deeper dive into, like, if you have severe thunderstorms, tracking them. And sometimes you can only list off 2 or 3 town names and you give an approximate time and then you have to move on. Well, gives us an ability to just slam on the brakes, slow down, hold your hand and walk you through these storms. And truly, I really think that's what's important. I mean, over the years, we've been together 13 years doing this, you even longer. And I just feel like sometimes people feel left out because they get to the big towns or, just a quick mention. But this is a real good way to highlight every single dot that is on the map because we care about everyone equally. So really to track these storms, and we can go into more detail saying, hey, well, this part of the storm has stronger winds. Well, this south side, we're looking at maybe some stronger winds wrapping around, or here's where the hail core is. And we can be very specific as to where those hail cores are heading, if it's big enough to do any damage, if there are any other threats,
Right.
like potentially some rotation inside storms. So we really can analyze every individual storm because sometimes the
cool.
map is just littered with storms.
And some people want that, Rick. There's
Right.
the person that wants the quick weather, and there's the person that wants the more detail. I mean, we see it with our lives that there's definitely a hardcore group that come in here regularly, and we're going to be there for you in both ways. And that's one of the beauties of this. Rick, here's an interesting one off YouTube.
What do you got?
He said, Crispy was his name. He said, I watched some of the people on YouTube and felt like they were mainly fear mongering, but had no other option when we weren't live and on the air. And he's glad that we're doing more of these. And that's, in a nutshell, that's the exact reason that we're doing these, is we want to bring professionalism into an environment. We know that the sky is falling is very common. I saw a post the other day. It was almost, if your business is the streaming business of weather and you get a couple of tropical systems, whether they're going to affect the U.S., you're going to open-ended that.
Yeah.
You're going to say the tropics are coming back to life. Be careful.
Be careful.
Beware. This is bad. I mean, is it bad if the tropical storm's going out in the middle of the ocean and it's affecting nobody? I mean, you tell me. I'm not saying your opinion should be my opinion, but look, I mean, if that's the case, why the wild language? And we're going to do our best to avoid all that stuff.
And I think that's our ultimate goal, is to give you trustworthy, without the hype, accurate weather information, because there are so many frauds out there, to be honest with you.
It really is true.
And we are going to fight against that and do our best. And by being here, that's how we're going to prove it. It's going to be by day after day, showing up, giving you good information you can use, keep you and your friends and family safe. And safety, that's the most important thing. I know. I mean, oftentimes people think we're just telling the weather, but after forecasting and after seeing, especially what you've seen over the years in terms of hurricanes and storm chasing,
it hurts.
You really, and even watching severe weather as it unfolds, you kind of have to block out the emotions sometimes. And then afterward, you look back and you're like, wow, like I can't believe that happened. And you see the homes that are wrecked and you feel for those families. So that's one thing. It's like, it's just an emotional weight that people probably don't think we carry or not complaining about it, but we truly care deep down.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's a hard situation.
Remember that tornado on Prospect that we had?
Right.
What year was it? Is that 2 years ago?
2 years ago, that went through. Went through Jeff, went through Prospect, and then dropped another in Henry County.
Right.
And then I think a third was near Goshen.
And there were neighborhoods that families who
I know.
lived there, and
That's a tough thing when you're on the air
it's
doing
tough.
that. So I promised you guys 3 full questions here. Deborah saying thank you. Jessica saying, who knew weather could be so exciting until you guys came to town? We appreciate that. Weather's super exciting, trust me. Is there a possible flooding threat with these storms? From Jeanette. We'll give that one to you, Rick.
Yeah, last night we had flash flooding, Carroll, Trimble, Clark County, 2 to 4 inches of rain, short period of time. And here's the deal. So you have your topsoil and then your subsoil. Well, the topsoil until recently has been rock solid. The water falls down and almost acting like concrete, and it couldn't get in. Well, now we had a little bit of rain, so it's a little softer. I was walking around today, which is great. And that means that water can now go down into the subsoil. That's just a little more information you probably needed to know. But the question is flooding. And the answer is absolutely yes. We saw some flash flooding last night.
We did.
If we
It was
saw
isolated, but we got
It's
some.
isolated, and that's what flash flooding is. I mean, you can see flood advisories covering big areas, but the more serious flash flood warning, that's where you have roads covered in water, and there could be tiny localized spots
Yep.
that get some flash flooding. The rivers, the streams, some of those creeks could rise very rapidly. Yes, we're in drought. We need the rain. It's just kind of crazy to talk about
I
drought
know.
and flash flooding in the same sentence, but it's a real possibility.
I
So,
always
yeah.
say that when weather patterns break, they tend to break in a strong way,
Right.
sometimes violently.
And tomorrow morning, definitely watch out for that flash flooding.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is some of the data because the thunderstorm action tonight, the severe over Oklahoma, Arkansas is diving south. Some of the data tonight weakens that wave a little bit and then shows more reformation tomorrow, which I think is somewhat interesting. But the current sweep of high res data shows some heavy stuff, very heavy stuff late tonight and tomorrow. Of course, that's something we'll monitor. So one more question here. Let's see, this one's going to come in from Christy. So Christy is asking, let's show you her question. Christy is saying, what about the Pekin and Salem area? So Pekin, Salem, Borden, we're going to watch you overnight tonight. I think you're going to see some rain and storms. There is some potential for flooding tonight. There really is. In terms of severe tonight, I think with our temperatures being cooler, we're not talking about a large-scale severe threat, which is great. And I think on the reflare tomorrow, if we're to generate that reflare, if they're severe on that, I think along and south of the river would have that greater threat. So I mentioned that to you so that you kind of have a sense of that. You know, let's do one last bonus question here. Meade County, any severe threat for the next couple of days? Paul, you're going to be the lucky one with the last question for Rick.
All right, so Paula, tomorrow's the day to watch. It kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. We're not talking about a high-end severe weather event, but it is a day where we have some wind energy, we have some fuel. You probably noticed you stepped outside and the humidity's back. So that combined with some warm temperatures close to 80, there's just enough of some of the ingredients that we could see some strong to potentially severe storms. Again, the southern half of our counties, our viewing area, south of 64, looks like the more prime zone. It looks like the atmosphere is a little more ripe in that area to see some warnings. But once again, Pekin, Indiana, they're going to be in the northern side. So
I don't think we're going to get out of control.
we're not going to get out of control, but
And
yes,
I think that's the other thing.
tomorrow's the only day. I mean,
It
it's
is.
the only day you have to worry about.
And so let's be clear. We're talking about potentially some rogue to maybe scattered. We're not talking about an outbreak. And there's nothing in the data that speaks to an outbreak. So Rick just jumped in here. If you guys don't follow Rick on Facebook, he's a great follow. I will tell you because when I'm off, you're going to see Rick. And also, if I'm on TV, sometimes you're going to see Rick in here. If you follow him, you're going to get alerts when he goes live. Number two, I'm looking down at my Facebook right here on my phone. Let me know. Do you guys appreciate the lives? Throw some thumbs up and some hearts across the screen. Share the video with your friends and your family. If you're on YouTube, we appreciate you joining us in here. Share the video if you're on any of our streams so that you can get that information out to everybody else. Remember, the lives live forever. Actually, not forever. They live for 30 days, which in social media world's forever. And I'm going to be looking at data here right now. So on WDRB News at 10, remember I just mentioned to you, high-res data is rolling right now. You've been very specific in asking your questions, and I'm going to get even more specific on WDRB News at 10 because I'm going to have a new round of high-res data. Rick and I will be going through that. I'm going to be updating at 10, 10:22, and 10:37. Rick's going to have more data to look at. He'll be updating you on WDRB News at 11. So make sure you tune in for us on that area. It's a way you guys support us. We now have sponsors on our Facebook Lives that we appreciate. So by you guys following us, your support now means the world to us because it allows us to do this in this space and on TV and keep our jobs. So share the video. If you're not a follower on